Good fellow. How they sent you notes of this. That's sweet.
It's not the same match we're watching.
It's a goal! I got so cool now. This my so-called live broadcast. They delayed me down to.
Now, don't worry. Let's switch to video call so I
Where's
can
my
live stream the match
where's
from
my phone?
here from Russia.
Video.
Russia from
With a rush, you can get 1.5 gigabyte roaming data for just 2,000 naira.
Looking like a 3-second liner.
*5*4# to activate. Offer
This
valid
one,
for 30
Yeah,
days.
but it doesn't-
You can
you need
also
to put a
make
line in
calls for
between.
100
There has
naira
to
per
be
minute.
just like 3
Available
seconds,
on
yeah.
Tele2 Russia only.
See how clear it is. I definitely hear that when you go when they
Oh, you sent me a message, man.
Zoom in for that.
Because I was calling the answer. I was just prepared to just refresh the
Love
first page.
music. Love.
As what that would have happened.
Here's some hot just for you.
Just be
Nah,
like,
I'm
so?
not sure enough.
Absolutely
Oh, it was you
amazing.
that called
Welcome
me.
back,
Yeah.
absolutely
Oh, it was
amazing.
you that called
Welcome
me.
back,
Yeah.
from MTN.
Oh, I guess
If you have not used your SIM for
I
45
figured.
days or
I
more
was
for
hopeful.
whatever reason, dead, or you just stopped using it, or maybe it even broke.
Today was
Whatever.
even a sweet day to
Just
come
get back
now.
on
No
MTN
Yeah, no
traffic,
traffic.
nothing.
and get
So it's not
2,000% on
it's
your
not a
first
stressful
recharge of every month.
regular
Regular
weekday
Launch your SIM,
experience.
no
It's tomorrow
Wahala.
morning. I'm
Just
also
visit
looking
any
forward to it.
MTN center.
The rat race
choose
is
your
back.
recharge, and
Yeah.
2,000%
And the
is
holiday was
yours.
cool, you know.
And that
Like,
means
So
if
you guys have been really
100
enjoying
naira,
lavishing
you get
from all the
2,000
way.
naira.
It was an actual holiday.
Get
Yeah.
4,000 naira.
It was an actual holiday for a lot of
500
people.
naira, you get 10,000
Back in my
naira.
civilian
Isn't that
days
incredible?
when I used to work
Well,
as.
don't
Still
wait.
back in
Yeah,
civilian
I'm
days.
serious. And by this time I have traveled somewhere like what? Long holiday,
Ah,
what?
4 days.
Thursday.
That's
That's
that's almost like a week.
If I'm not planned
Yeah,
Wednesday,
you
sick
know.
Joseph. Oh god, just give them sick day Wednesday.
Early exit.
In-depth analysis of national current affairs.
Studio. Mics are up.
Sweet Quest.
Lagos, and thanks for staying with us here on Smooth 98.1. We're in time now for freshly detailed analysis of the newspaper stories this morning. And joining us to do analysis on these stories, we have Adedunmade, who's up on Twitter as at Adedunmade.
good morning, Lagos.
Good morning.
guys.
Thank you for coming in
Morning, happy
today.
holidays, welcome,
Yeah,
welcome.
same
I
to
like it.
you.
Next thing, just relax. My learned colleague is not
Yeah,
in his
man.
typical
Shirt and
gear.
tie.
Yeah, suit and tie.
But it's good. Lagos, do join in our conversation as we jump in very quickly. Use the hashtag FreshlyPress981. Go over to YouTube. You can watch a live stream, of course, and comment on the live stream. And you can send us messages to our WhatsApp number, which I will tweet to you in just a second. So without further ado, here are the stories for today.
From Punch newspaper this morning, we have the story: Boko Haram attacks Damboa, kills 31, injures 48. So this happened on Friday, 8:45 p.m. precisely. They said the attack occurred on the outskirts of Damboa local government area, that's Abachiari area of Borno State. The JTF was mobilized right after the explosion occurred, and they discovered 20 bodies and 48 injured persons. Adedunmade, what's your take on this?
Yeah, well, the first thing I'm going to say is I would really like to commend Freshly Pressed, because we always keep it in the news because people always need to know that the deaths have not stopped, that Boko Haram is still out there, and that there's still so much to be done in order to conquer insurgency. So yeah, that's great. And but however, the news itself is not so great. 31 people at the last count have died due to this attack, and it's really, really very sad. And of course, every time we always try to empathize with these people and their families and wonder what they're going through, and it always raises the notion for us to always talk to our security agencies and ask what's going on, ask why this happened, ask why it was not prevented, and ask what could be done in order to better prevent such attacks. But one thing that was quite interesting was the way the attack was carried out, because the first phase of the attack was carried out by suicide bombers.
Yes.
Then when people came to help, it's just natural when there's an attack and people
First
come.
responders,
Yeah,
yes.
and they now had to shoot rockets at this rocket propelled grenades.
Right.
I think there's a difference there. And yeah, so that's where most of the casualties came from. Now, what I ask myself is, so do we advise people that when there's an attack you don't help? Because that's just wrong. You can't say that. What we need to do is just to have our security teams on more alert. Now that we know that this is a style of attack, we might start preparing for this style of attacks as well. Then also, I think the people may not be helping enough as they should, because it's time to see something and say something. If you know anyone that is committing these crimes, or if you have any link or clue as to how these crimes may be solved, it's very important that you tell the security agencies. Now, back to the responsibility of the government, which is actually their right to protect the lives of citizens of Nigerians. It's just sad that this Boko Haram thing has continued. We cannot really blame them because the act of warfare now has changed. It's not just go somewhere and shoot out. They have to be more intelligent in engaging this. Just keep on saying that the government needs to continue to keep up the work of fighting insurgency. The military has to ensure that all cards are on deck, that all things they need are given to them in terms of finance, in terms of government support, that all those things need to come right. The people as well also have to play their role. And I always say we should start looking into possibility of citizens being able to protect themselves.
Indeed. Thank you for that.
Thoughts and prayers go to the families of those who lost their lives there at the incident. We'll move on to this next story now from the Guardian newspaper. SERAP sues Fashola over spending on the power sector. So the group who have been here for a couple of specials really that we've had, Social Economic Rights and Accountability Project, SERAP, they've sued the Minister of Power, Works and Housing, Babatunde Fashola, SAN, for alleged failure to account for spending on the privatization of the electricity sector. They said in this time where there's so much hunt on corruption and people who have mismanaged government funds, there needs to be transparency and accountability in the exercise of generating power, making it even more available to Nigerians. What's your take?
Well, first of all, I have to commend Sarah because these guys are not letting their advocacy go.
They're consistent.
Consistent day in, day out, and they've been for years now. It's actually great to see that we have organizations like them in the Nigerian space, and I really wish that we'll have more people come up with such things. Now, back to the issue of the story.
Yes, the things they're requesting specifically.
Yeah. It's funny how government gave us the Freedom of Information Act, but when we now act on it, they refuse to oblige us. And
just for Lagos to know, I was just going to say, so in case you aren't familiar yet with the story, do you know that they're asking for government to explain the source of how the money is spent? They're asking they're asking the court to compel Fashola to provide specific details on the privatization of the electricity sector. That's the names of the companies and individuals involved, and of course the status of implementing the 25-year National Energy Development Plan. So very specific things. So I didn't.
Yeah, but can all this information be provided in 14 days?
Well, it's assumed that the information should be there in the first place, should be available in the first place, because if you're going to carry out a job, you do a recce, you have information that you're working with. What's wrong with making it public?
You'll be surprised that some of these people don't even have this information. Government agencies do not run like private organizations where they run by the book, the documentation. And
It's supposed to be better, right?
It's supposed to be better, but it's actually worse. So sometimes I'm sure these people don't even have this data, or they have to have a staff, come up or go from point A to B, try to gather it. So I think 14 days may not have been enough for him to actually provide all this information.
But do you think that SERAP know that 14 days is not enough? What do you think that, because I feel that they probably have a sense of that. So I'm curious as to what their underlying purpose is. Is it to at least get government to start releasing something or to push in a particular direction?
Well, this is a multi-pronged approach in my opinion. It gets to answer so many things. One, on the issue of the 14 days, it's what the law says. So they are just doing what the law says.
Okay.
Yeah. So if there's anything that's going to change, that law needs to be amended. Maybe give them 21 days or 48 days, as the case may be. But that's not the case now. That's what the law says. Now, it's this. What they've done. This suit is going to, shall I say, achieve a couple of things. One is going to promote the issue of transparency in the power sector, because we've been complaining all about it. We don't know what makes the discos, the gencos, the government, NERC. We don't understand clearly how they're all just mixed up together, and how though they're all trying to make things work, things are not working for Nigerians,
Yeah.
especially on the issue of the estimated billing. So there needs to be more transparency in that sector. So this is going to push that, and also this is also going to push the fact that people need to know government spending.
Yes.
People need to, and government needs to account for that spending. Yeah. So those are the multi-pronged approaches I think that they are taking on this thing, and I think it's great. I think more people should do that as well.
All right. Thank you very much, Adedunmade. Please remember to send in your message on YouTube. We're streaming live, youtube.com/smooth91FM Lagos. Also on the WhatsApp number that's been tweeted on our Smooth FM handle here on Twitter. Punch newspaper has this next story. No going back on Okada ban. So the Anambra State Governor Willie Obiano has said that commercial motorcycle operators known as Okada, they'll stay their practice, or rather their work or movement around the town, especially in Oka and Onisha, will still stay restricted as at the July 1st deadline that he pegged earlier. Well, 15,000 of them have protested, and they said that this ban would leave them jobless. But the governor said it provided means for them to actually take up more jobs and just do this, get into the system where they do a sort of a program where they take on tricycles and shuttles and pay, what they call that thing again? Hire purchase. Yes,
yeah.
hire purchase. What's your take?
Yeah, well, we've always watched the various states in Nigeria that have tried it, try to remove Okadas from the streets, especially here in Lagos. It happened severally. It didn't just happen. In fact, it's still an ongoing phase here in Lagos because there's still Okadas in some certain areas. They were just banned from certain places. Now, what I used to think will be the problem is just trying to take away means of livelihood without providing an alternative to these people, which is actually where the problem usually lies, especially here that you can see that they are saying 15,000 of them will lose their jobs. Now, the states have always come to say, okay, we'll provide buses as alternative means of transportation, but the truth is that a bus cannot get to where an Okada can get to. An Okada can get into the nooks and crannies of the street, but a bus will definitely not get there. It will drop you down at the bus stop. That's why people favor Okadas. We've realized that even with tricycles, we can achieve that because tricycles can also go in nooks and crannies of streets.
Yes.
So I'm excited to see that the government is actually making a way here for them to switch to tricycles. I wish that should be the focus rather than just saying, okay, we have an express ban on Okadas. I think they should be like, okay, you know what, we are giving you a time frame for you to switch to tricycles, and after you don't switch, then there's going to be the ban. And if you have not swapped your bikes for tricycles at that time to face the law. But now I also see that they have also made a payment plan which makes it easier for these people to actually change their line of transport business from Okadas to kekes, and I think that's actually great. Now the truth is that bikes are being phased out systematically.
Yes.
But can we just also note that this is specifically for commercial Okadas? So it's not
just
it is
regular
not
bikes.
for regular bikes. It's not for people who want to use Okadas for their personal transport. It's actually for commercial use. So they're trying to phase out the commercial use of Okadas. And I think that's an important distinction for us to make. Because when we say things like buses don't get to certain places, it's true. You as an individual, according to what the story is telling us, from going out and being able to have your own Okada for personal use.
No, I think this is great, but I would like to liken it to what was done here in Lagos, where the kind of bikes you could use were upgraded to a certain
200
cc.
cc.
Above 200cc.
Yeah, so if they do the same, then it will have the same effect. Well, if they don't, then there'll still be Okadas on the streets. Then how do you tell the difference between someone who's a commercial rider and someone who's a
You would
personal
know
rider?
they're being used for commercial use. They have a license plate really that shows
That
why
shows
they're.
it's commercial.
Yes.
But at the same time, okay, what if I now go and get a bike, I put a personalized or a private plate?
They'll find you
on
out.
it?
The authorities will be. I'm sure they
I
put in
would just
measures.
be
to-
riding my bike and I'll tell the customer, oh God, if they catch us, we will tell us.
You see the sense, but it's true. These are the realities of what happens.
And
Well,
that is what is going to happen.
obviously, we assume that the government really knowing, being proactive to these measures, and not being oblivious to all these things. So all this occurring.
Well, the truth is they cannot totally
Eradicate
remove
it.
Okadas, yes.
It's a process. And it started. Now, the next story is from the New Telegraph newspaper. The National Judicial Council has asked that the Supreme Court determines who, between it and the state governors, have disciplinary powers over judicial officers to say it was invested in it according to the 1999 Constitution. to suspend the chief judges of Anambra, Plateau, and Ekiti states for partisan roles they played in impeachment of their respective state assemblies. What are your thoughts?
Well, as a lawyer, this is actually quite interesting to me, and also because I'm particularly interested with the issue of separation of powers and how the executive has always encroached on the powers of the judiciary. On the appeal filed by the Chief Justice of Ekiti State. Now, what has happened there was an issue, and the Chief Judge was made to convene a panel to discuss the issue or to treat the issue or to trash the issue, as the case may be. Now, the Chief Judge is said picked cronies of the governor. Now, this is wrong in the sense that, okay, I want to look into you and I pick your friends to do that. Obviously, there is not going to be any justice there. And the lawyers in the state rightfully pointed out to the NJC that, look, this guy is not doing, as lawyers, because we like to tell ourselves that we're officers in the temple of justice, and because of that, we have a certain code of duty that we cannot fall short of. And they raised the cry to the NJC that, look, this guy has fallen short of that standard, and the NJC treated accordingly what they felt was an infraction. But now, he has appealed, and the issue of the appeal basically is based on section 291 and 292 of the Constitution, which talks about the powers of the judiciary, of the NJC, sorry. Now, that says that the NJC has powers to discipline judges. Now, this is also the issue that came up with the EFCC, DSS, and the courts as well when they took the judges to court, because they were like, you have to take them to the NJC first before you can take them to court. So now, if we bring that argument into this thing now, the NJC has taken a decisive step, but the governor did not assent to it. Now, this is a governor who we are saying that the chief judge has helped in a certain way. So is there a way that governor is going to accept what the NJC has done?
The clear case of bias.
Exactly. So what I believe that the NJC should still maintain these powers, and they should be allowed to remove this judge. The reason being is that if they are not allowed, that means the governors can do as they like with the state judiciary, which is actually very wrong. But if the NJC does this, it shows that at least someone out there is watching over the state chief judges, and they cannot just do as they please.
All right. Thank you very much for that. We've got messages coming in already. A big shout out to Keels and Ballistic, who says, wow, Adedunmade on a Monday. Folu, you owe him a drink of his choice.
Yes.
I'm pretty sure that I do. I'm pretty sure I do. Up on WhatsApp, though, MI from Akoka says about our first story, the Boko Haram attack. God rest the dead. Sad for a Monday morning. I know investment and reforms in the security architecture will take a while to yield results, but in the interim, we need closure to these pockets of violence, says MI from Akoka. Don Charlie from Sule says it irks his imagination hearing the increasing number of citizens that are killed by terrorists. Any well-meaning armed forces member should be able to realize at this juncture that collaboration with a sophisticated partner, that is country or agency, will bring long-lasting solution to this national malady, says Don Charlie from Sule. While Walter from Igondo sends in a message saying the ban on okada in Anambra is very welcome. They will be operating in the nooks and crannies and not on the major roads. And then Tony Ayo from Ayobo says, so the good work of building a real infrastructure by the Buhari government is now tagged to be for bringing in foreigners to rig election for Buhari. Wow. By those who claim to be elders and leaders of the people. Is this shame to such elders? So they can't see the good side of real transport? Okay, Tony, thank you very much for that one. But let's move on and talk about more interesting stories. The news these days seems a little bit like gist. There's a lot of back and forth going on, especially with regards to the ETB and Innoson issue. So it's back in the pages of the newspaper this from last night to this morning. So ThisDay newspaper has it. Innoson denies reports recanting the 14 billion naira judgment debt against it. So Innoson has dismissed as false and malicious reports in some sections of online news medium and blogs suggesting that its chairman, that Chief Innocent Chukwuma, had recanted from the company's earlier position that the Supreme Court had asked GTB to pay a judgment debt of 14 billion naira into an interest-yielding account. Now, there was a press statement released by the company, signed by Mr. Cornell Osigwe, who's the head of corporate communications in Enugu, and insisted that everything else before that was stories. Your thoughts, Adedunmade?
Well, as a lawyer and as a litigation one, we like to hear lawsuits in big figures. You get 14
billion.
billion.
You're like, ooh,
Wow.
okay,
The
table will
let's
shake.
talk.
I'm going to court that day, man. I don't feel like 2 boxes of books. Anything they want to say, man. I'm there with them. You know, I'm in it like 14 billion. We die here. Basically.
But then what's going on? I mean, has the court released any judgment? Do we have eyes been set on any documentation? How can there be so much confusion over this one issue?
No, actually, first thing I know is that if I'm innocent, I'm not going to recount 14 billion. Especially if the court is actually to give me that cash. You know, I'm going to tell you, hey, you have 14 days, you have 14 days. If you don't pay within 14 days, my lawyers know what to do. So I'm sure that they did not recount that. Now, the thing is that there's something we do in courts where if you owe someone some money and the person is not sure you're going to give them the money and the length of time of adjudication of the matter is also not sure, there's something the courts can say that the debtor should do, which, okay, just put this money in the court's account and at the end of the trial, whoever wins gets the money.
All right, got you. So it's like a third party, an event
Like
third
a third
party that
party,
you pay
yes,
into,
yes.
and if terms and conditions are fulfilled, you get your cash.
Exactly. So that's what is happening here now. So GTB came with a stay of execution on that, but that was denied. That means that GTB has to put that 14 billion into the account of the chief registrar of the Supreme Court.
So again, just to clarify for people listening, so the court did make this pronouncement that we're saying, and we've seen documentation to this effect.
Yeah, there was a judgment.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
And GTB bought a stay of execution.
Okay.
But
on
that
the
was not
judgment.
successful.
Right.
So that means the judgment still runs.
That the judgment stands.
Yes. So
Okay.
they still have to pay that cash.
Yikes.
Wow.
Yikes. So here we are
If
again.
I were them, I feel bad too.
We'll find out who takes it then.
My lawyers too will sleep.
Wow. Okay, Lagos. Well, there you have it. We are still, of course, taking messages and comments. Keep them coming in. The hashtag on Twitter is Press981. The WhatsApp number is up on that same hashtag, so you can find it quite easily, and you can comment on our YouTube live stream. Just search for Smooth FM Lagos up there. Click the subscribe button. Up next, New Telegraph gives us this headline: End barriers on adolescents' access to contraceptives. Now, medical experts are weighing in and are urging relevant government agencies to review the existing regulations which stop adolescents from accessing contraceptives except with parental consent. According to one Dr. Salami Habib, a physician with a specialty in obstetrics and gynecology, this barrier is necessary because of the high number of adolescents, majorly singles, who end up with unintended pregnancies, many which result in unsafe abortions, sometimes in death. Your thoughts, Adedunmade?
Well, I was reading the story and I'm asking myself, because we're a very conservative society here in Nigeria. I'm
Well, we
thinking-
certainly appear to be.
We appear to be, but under the clothes and under our skin, we're very worse.
Yeah, it's a very different situation
Yeah,
in
but
people's homes.
I asked myself that, okay, from a conservative point of view, do you really want to be giving condoms and pills to 10-year-olds and 12-years-olds?
No.
Well, and the adolescent is also a 13, a 15-year-old, a 16-year-old who are married in Nigeria as well.
Yeah, but the age here started from about, was it
10, well,
10 to
10-year-olds are
12?
married
10 to
off
12,
in Nigeria.
Exactly. So I thought of that too, and I figured, okay, you know what? Even these 10-year-olds, you know, we've seen so many videos of them. Not so many, but we've seen some of them carrying out some acts where they shouldn't. Some is drug use, some is sex, you know, and things like that. So I'm thinking, if we have that problem, then let's not shy away from it.
Yes.
You know, if it's there, then let's not act as if it's not there. If these people need this help, then let us provide it. Now, it's not as if they cannot even get it now. It just means that now they cannot get it without parental control. Your parents have to consent to it, which is actually great. But I think that in addition to that, they should actually be allowed, because you don't know how it's going to help someone.
Yeah.
You don't know how this is going to save a life. You don't know how this is going to prevent an unwanted pregnancy somewhere. And I think that we cannot stop educating these children on the proper things to do, on how long. That's why, you know, the home unit, because some of these lessons come out of that home unit. But you find out that a lot of Nigerian homes right now are not on the right track. You know, so much is going on in the homes, and we are not talking about it. We're not bringing these issues to the fore.
We're pretending that it's not happening.
Exactly, and that's why I feel that society, like the moral standards in our society just continues to fall, because we're not addressing these issues at home. So please give these kids contraceptives if they need.
All right. Thank you very much for that, Adedunmade. I'm sure a lot of people will have things to say about it. Would you give your adolescent child contraceptive, would you talk to them about it?
That's
what
an
we want to
uncomfortable
know.
question.
Okay, so no, it's an uncomfortable question, but it's
Yeah.
one that we must ask. Are we living in the reality, or are we living in the hopeful of maybe our children will not know about this? Anyways, we've got more to talk about. Speaking of children, Lagos State is prioritizing them. From the Guardian newspaper, Lagos seeks prioritization of children's rights in national policies. The Lagos State government over the weekend was advocating for just this in the national policies and programs for sustainable socio-economic development of the country. Now, the Commissioner for Youth and Social Development, Agbola Dabiri, made the request at this year's Day of the African Child in Ikeja, Leave No Child Behind. They're looking at a focus on good education, adequate nutrition, and quality healthcare. Your thoughts?
Very important, really. The Child Rights Act states that the issues pertaining to a child shall be of paramount importance in all things. So this is basically the state saying that, okay, let's adhere to the law, and let's follow the letters of the law. Now, the issue of the Child Rights Act is a very tricky one because we have so many states that have not adopted it yet. And this is actually very sad. I think we have about 40 states yet to adopt it. Funny enough, I read an article on this about a few weeks ago when on Child Rights Day, on Children's Day, actually. And it's centered on some of the overtures made by the Senate to all the states that have not adopted the Child Rights Act, trying to engage them and having them do it. But that some of these states also have indigenous laws that conflict with the Child Rights Act, so it's understandable why they will not just readily adopt it, especially some of the states that are based on Islamic law. Now, they are allowed to have young brides, but the Child Rights Act says it has to be 18. So I don't know if the states will need to tweak it a bit before they can domesticate it, but the fact that they are not adopting it at all is actually not good for this, right? Because there are a lot of basic rights that come with this. There's right to education, right to life, right to decency, a decent lifestyle.
Of course. And since you mentioned that, just before we move on, because we are running out of time, let's not forget that we are talking about children, and Dabiri stated that irrespective of where children live or what their circumstances are, Adedunmade, we see a proliferation of children on the streets of Lagos. Do you think people are consciously thinking about the rights of these children, and what do you think the government should be doing about addressing the many multitudes of young children out on the streets?
On my way driving out of here now, there's a traffic light I'm going to hit, and I'm going to meet some children beggars there. I meet them every week when I live here. Now, the truth is, if we are considering what we should be considering, which is the rights of this child, those children will not be there.
Thank you very much for that, Adedunmade. Final bit of news very quickly. TCN power supply is down to 1,087.6 megawatts. Load shedding is inevitable. This is according to the Transmission Company of Nigeria. They said this on Sunday. Now, according to the General Manager of Public Affairs, Mrs. Ndidimba in Abuja, she said the 6 power plants that generate electricity with gas were shut down because gas supplies to them were cut off. Adedunmade.
These experiences have instilled in Nigerians some sort of notions. For instance, when you have light, when you have power for so long, like 3 weeks, you get worried that, what's going to happen? What's going to happen? Power for 3 weeks. That means the next blackout is going to take like literally months. But so this is another thing that just confirms that notion. Before today, light was good, power was good until this breakdown. So it just lets us still remember that our power is still not sustainable. Now, we were generating about 3,827 megawatts as of June 14, but now we're down to 1,000. Basically, we need mini grids in states. That's the only way things can work. If not, we'll just continue with this national grid thing and we'll be here for another 50 years.
Thank you very much. We're pretty much done with Freshly Pressed for this morning. A big thank you to everyone who sent in messages. I wish we could go through all of them. I'll round up with this one from Gringus. He says,
what exactly is going on with this Innoson Motors and GTB case? Who's misleading the public? Innoson Motors or the Nigerian media? Because GTB has also come out to debunk the claim of the 14 billion judgment against them.
Yeah, well, the mystery continues.
Coming up next at 8:15 Lagos, we talk sports inside of the locker room. Thank you, Adedunmade.
My pleasure.
Good morning.
Good morning.
The headlines.